Hello folks and welcome to an all new episode of This is Saturn. Sorry for the delay, as I said at the end of the last episode, exams are an absolute pain in the arse. But on the plus side, they're all done now. So at last I can sit down and take a good long look at today's game and the first third party game on this show, Compile's Puyo Puyo Sun. My personal introduction to the Puyo Puyo series was with Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine on the Mega Drive, which I suspect is the case for a lot of people in the West. I did not like Mean Bean Machine. I still do not like Mean Bean Machine. This may bode badly for Puyo Puyo Sun, but hear me out, that's a misleading first impression. First of all, let me provide some quick background. Puyo Puyo was actually a puzzle game spin-off from the Mado Monogatari RPG series that eventually became bigger than Mado Monogatari itself. Puyo Puyo generally follows the adventures of Arle Nadja as she tries to stop Satan from being a dickhead. At least before the Dreamcast era. Since Compile died around the Dreamcast, SEGA got the Puyo Puyo license, and nowadays it's both a series of puzzle games and a rather popular mobile card game thing with a completely different art style and cast. Compile actually did manage to return as a publisher, but they're now Compile Heart. Now all they make are a bunch of games with ridiculously proportioned anime girls and so forth. Ironically, one of said games, Hyperdimension Neptunia, is crossing over with the amazing SEGA Hard Girls franchise now, and I'm officially on a tangent. Puyo Puyo Sun started in the arcades, as usual with the Puyo games, and then got ported to just about every home console at the time, along with the Game Boy. Bizarrely, it also saw a 2003 re-release on the PlayStation 1, published by SEGA. Yes, SEGA actually did publish a game on the PlayStation 1. I mean, sure, the console business was dead by then, but I still find that very odd. But let's forget about that because obviously we're looking at the SEGA Saturn version here. So, it's time for a quick plot summary. In this game, Satan decides he wants a tan to impress all of the ladies at the beach, and so he brings the sun closer to his resort island for the purpose of sunbathing. Folks who have come to the island for a holiday generally find it too hot, though the viewpoint of the player depends on who you play as. Draco, the game's easy mode character, wants to go sunbathing. Arle, normal mode, wants to go and see Satan to reject his usual advances on her and stop his plans. Shezo, the dark magician and the game's de facto hard mode, wants to punch Satan in the face for making things so bloody hot and taking away the night time. That's the gist of it anyway. As I've mentioned, Puyo Puyo is a puzzle game, somewhat along the lines of Tetris and Columns, with an opponent to battle against. The key mechanic here is that you have to connect 4 blobs, the Puyos, of the same colour in order to get rid of them and get points. They don't have to be in a line or anything, they just can't connect diagonally. Anyways, the Puyos drop into your on-screen grid, and it's your goal to get combos and pile garbage Puyos, which you get for these combos, onto your opponent's grid, so that their grid fills up and you win. In order to actually beat anyone though, you'll need to master this idea of chaining combos. If you can't do the combos, you're as good as fucked. Newly introduced are Sun Puyos. Destroying these allows you to do massive damage to your opponent's grid through garbage Puyos, so a really handy new feature that can really help balance out matches pretty well in terms of comebacks. Of course, the AI can also use this to their advantage, so be careful out there. There's obviously much deeper mechanics to the game, such as the sort of window of time you get before an enemy's about to drop a bunch of garbage Puyos on you to retaliate, and how all of the sun mechanics work. But I'm going to be very blunt here. I am not any kind of Puyo master, and I don't really understand how half of this works. That said, I don't feel you need a super in-depth understanding of all the different techniques. As long as you know how to chain the Puyos and the Sun Puyos are good and everything, you're generally going to be okay here, and you're going to have a fun time, as I did. Upon getting to the main menu, you've got a few options. A single-player story mode, a multiplayer mode, a training mode, and an options menu. Whilst the main menu is easy enough to get to grips with, Good luck navigating the options menu, it's entirely in Japanese, and I have no idea what most of this stuff means. On a side note, before the game boots, and also available in the options menu, is a message for Act Against AIDS. It caught me off guard at first. In such a cute and cuddly game for the most part, there's a very serious message thrown in your face every time you boot it up. It's sure as hell not a bad thing though. In fact, I commend Compile for using the popularity of Puyo to spread awareness about the importance of caring for those living with AIDS. The single player story mode's length depends on the character you choose. Draco has the shortest, Arle actually has the longest, and Shezo's is in the middle, with the difficulty of his compensating for his shorter story. You'll have no problem with Draco unless you outright suck at puzzle games, but Arle's story, and especially Shezo's story, can put up quite a challenge, even surprisingly early on in them. In between each battle, you're also treated to a short cutscene showing your character and your next opponent blabbing at each other. They're all fully voice acted, and generally quite funny and charming. That said, with the game being Japan exclusive, obviously I can't understand what the characters are saying. With perhaps a notable exception here and there.
No, shit! Shit! Shit!
Yeah, that caught me off guard in a game with, again, as cute an art style as this one. Speaking of which, I finally invested in an RGB SCART cable for my Saturn, and with this game, it really shows. The sprite work is crisp, detailed, expressive, and colourful. It's a lovely art style, and the final cutscenes that break away from the chibi aesthetic most of the cutscenes maintain look beautiful. The fully animated intro to the game also deserves a mention. It's again quite funny and enjoyable to watch in spite of being a somewhat low quality FMV. Anyway, Puyo single player's fun and all, but it's safe to say one of the main edges Puyo has over other puzzlers of the time is its competitive multiplayer. Multiplayer in Puyo Puyo is easily where the game shines, as you'd expect. It's addictive, fast-paced fun, and unpredictable as anything. I was genuinely taken aback when my brother managed to beat me. You're given a few settings in multiplayer mode, but I have absolutely no idea what any of them do. At first I thought it dropped certain kinds of Puyo or something into your grid at the start of each match, but it seems really inconsistent, so I'm drawing a blank here. It's not that important from what I can tell anyway, as overall the game is the same. Defeat your enemy by any means. There's also that handy training mode of sorts. You can select a difficulty, and then you play the game as normal, except it gradually gets harder and harder. You can record your sky scores and everything, so it's a really nifty mode for brushing up your combo skills and gunning for your high score. I will note that it gets really hard really quickly, so bring your A game here, folks. In terms of music, the game's alright. It's all very bright and happy music that's fun to listen to, and that said, there's not exactly much music anyway, with every battle minus the finale against Satan being set to the same track. The panic music when you're on the verge of winning or losing is great though, and really increases the pressure with its fast pace. It's not exactly the most memorable stuff in the world, but it gets the job done. Is Puyo Puyo Sun something I can recommend to you folks? My initial impressions were actually no. The difficulty curve annoyed the hell out of me in single player, and I was concerned things may become repetitive. Now that I've spent a good amount of time with the game and played through it a few more times, I can safely dismiss those concerns. Puyo is addictive, fast-paced, colourful, and just so much fun. Single player's difficulty curve is intimidating at first, but it's so satisfying to eventually topple it. The multiplayer is insanely addictive, and whenever they work, the additional gameplay settings are an interesting change from the norm, even if they're just little brief changes. Training adds some replay value to the game in the form of trying to beat your own score, which is really fun and useful in a game like this. I do wish I could understand whatever the hell the options menu says, but overall that's far from enough to even slightly diminish my experience with this game. If you love puzzlers and you're up for some fast-paced action on the Saturn, I fully recommend Puyo Puyo Sun, especially if you got a friend on hand for multiplayer. Thanks for watching, folks, and again I really do apologise for the delay. Before I sod off to go and make the next episode of this show though, I'm making a quick plug. My mate Digi Valentine recently started off a new show, Who Dat, where he takes an in-depth look at various characters from across various media. It's a superb series and one that I fully recommend you watch. And hey, you can go and do that by clicking the fancy link there. Go on, be kind. Anyway, chaps, see you next time, where we'll be looking at a very unique game. That Lover. See you then.